All right, here we are with yet another video in regards to Dave Chappelle and his battle against the giant streaming services, like Netflix and HBO Max, in regards to them streaming the Chappelle show without him being compensated in any way, shape, or form due to contracts he signed early on in his comedy career. So guys, before going forward in this video, please take a moment to hit the like button, hit subscribe, click the bell notification icon, and select all. That way you are notified whenever I post new content to the channel, and follow me on my social media platforms. Links are in the description below. Now, this is pretty much a follow-up video to the video I just recorded prior to this one about HBO Max agreeing to pull down the Chappelle show as of December 31st. So basically, at the end of 2020, they will be removing the Chappelle show from their streaming services. So I talked about briefly in the video about how there are some people still trying to compare the Chappelle situation to the Monique situation. And I strongly disagree that these situations are the same. So for context, you can watch a video which I will link in the top comment below from Comedy Hype. Why are people supporting Dave Chappelle over Monique's boycott? And I was in the comments section of their video. A lot of their videos, actually, I might chime in with a couple of thoughts. On this particular video, I did leave about 4 different comments instead of just one giant wall of text. But one of the top comments is mine, actually. It might be the top comment. I could be wrong here, but when I sort out the comments by the top one, I think mine is the top one. I could be wrong, but here we go. I said, and it's at 655 likes, so it could be the #1 comment. I said, let's use this example. Because remember, in the video, they were trying to see whether or not these two situations are the same. Here's what I said. Let's use this example. Dave asked us to boycott the McChicken, but Monique was asking us to boycott McDonald's. See the difference? And my comment has over 100 replies to it because it sparked some interesting discussion. I'm getting a lot of well saids, and I support the McRib. That's perfect. The McChicken that he created first at that perfectly said. Why is this even a conversation? That is true. Word. Good point. This is spot on. Guys, if you don't believe me, if you think I'm just ass pulling here to gas myself up, go to the video. I will leave it in the top comment below. I'll pin it to the top and go down to the comment section, and you'll see the responses there. But basically, my attitude is it's a completely different situation. I know in the video, I think one of the hosts of the show, I think it was the female host, she was trying to say, whether or not, hey, Monique being like the first one to stand up and everything, and that generated a lot of noise. Do you think that because she was kind of like the first one to take the arrows and everything, that was one reason why like Netflix and then HBO Max decided to pull the Chappelle show? I'm going to have to respectfully disagree because of the fact that Netflix really wasn't doing anything, because Monique said, like, Monique was the one that escalated it to a lawsuit, and I do believe that she did win the case as of a couple months ago, but just noticed that that victory really didn't get the same amount of steam or press that Monique suing Netflix did. So it definitely seems like something that flew under the radar for a lot of people. Like, hell, I didn't know about it until people brought it to my attention in one of my videos in the comment section. But it's just the fact that if you go back to the this is an article from let's see, it was Variety. They did an interview with the chief content officer of HBO and HBO Max, and he talked about how I had a conversation with Dave. I won't get into it, but it's very clear that it's a very unique and specific and emotional issue he's got. And then the article actually references Chappelle's Unforgiven. And there's one specific line that I wanted to pull from, and not to sound like some people who, use the Bible for their own arguments. They'll take one piece of scripture out instead of the full context of the text they're pulling from. But I just wanted to pull this one line from the article because Dave, this to me sums up the major difference between Monique and Dave. When I left the show, I never got paid. I found out that these people were streaming my work and they never had to ask me, or they never have to tell me. And here's the line that I want to bring up. Perfectly legal because I signed the contract. That to me says a lot when you compare the Monique and Dave Chappelle situation, because I feel like there are multiple layers of it. Like with the Dave Chappelle situation, of course, it's like Dave, it's almost like David versus Goliath, where you got Dave versus the Goliath that is a Netflix, a Viacom, a Comedy Central, a HBO Max, and what have you. It's the situation of going back. I will admit, when you compare the situations, Monique and Dave Chappelle, it both involves going back when they were younger. Of course, in the Monique situation, it goes back about a decade, whereas for Dave Chappelle, it goes well over a decade, if not a couple decades ago, when he first got started out and signed a bad deal. And now the major repercussions of that contract are still haunting him to this day. And he pretty much admits to his faults in this situation. I signed the contract. And I remember in a previous video, I talked when the Dave Chappelle thing first was brought up. I think I did like a response to Unforgiven, and I said, I feel bad for him, but even though it's not fair, it's legal. Not everything that's legal is fair, but it's legal. Once you sign the dotted line, that's it. No matter what kind of creation you made or what. Like the two individuals, I cannot remember their names off the top of my head. Considering I'm a comic book fan, I should know. But I think it's like Jerry and somebody. But the two men who created Superman, and then they sold the rights and everything to Superman for like $10 or what. It was not a big deal, but at the time, you know, $100, that's like a lot of money at the time the deal was made. And then when the first Superman film with Christopher Reeves was made, you know, that's when they were able to work out some kind of deal to give the creators a slice of the pie, even though legally they really didn't have to do it, because once you sign over something, that's it. Like that's a wrap. So I compare that to the whole Taylor Swift thing, you know, her battle against Scooter and Big Machine for the rights for her masters and everything. It's like, yeah, you feel bad to see an artist, their life's work, you know, pretty much owned and used by someone else. But once you sign the dotted line, if you don't have the ownership of your masters, it's like Prince said, you need to own your masters or your masters will own you. It's hard to feel sympathetic, because when you sign those papers, that's it. I mean, the biggest takeaway from these situations is like, it just hopefully means that the next generation of comedians, actors, musical artists and whatnot know not to make the same mistake. However, when you are a young and starving talent, and maybe you've worked years to even get a showcase to potentially get a contract, if it's the first deal you've got, I mean, Dave even said, like, I knew it wasn't the greatest deal, but I was about to become a father, and it was like the biggest way out at the time. You sign it, because it's like, I mean, for every no you've gotten from other companies or agents, the first time you get a deal to put you in a bigger spotlight, sometimes it isn't just about the money that's on the contract itself at the moment. You're thinking about, well, dang, it's like, this is finally a chance for me to show what I've got. So hopefully that leads to more opportunities. So you sign that deal. And at the time, you may not be thinking about everything fully. I mean, I made this reference in a previous video. Look at all these episodes of like Behind the Music, Unsung, and all these other documentaries, or Where Are They Now, or One Hit Wonders, where they talk about, oh yeah, I signed with this record label and I got screwed over because I didn't own any I didn't own any rights to publishing. I didn't own anything, so I couldn't even be, you know, like these artists from back in the day who had a string of hits who don't even get residuals or royalties because the record label owned everything and they didn't. So Dave, being a powerhouse in the industry he is now, is able to call out the industry for what it is, and he's able to make things happen because the industry recognizes that when Dave speaks, people listen. Now you're probably wondering, well, Jeremy, Monique, because I know on my last video I got a lot of flack in the comments. I disagree, Monique, she deserves this and that. I think Monique is a different situation because of the fact that, yes, Monique called out Netflix and all, but I feel like the situations are completely different because of the fact, like, Monique called out Netflix for, what was it? racial bias or gender bias and inequality and whatnot, but that was because she felt she was being lowballed. But the thing about it is, it's the fact that Netflix was the company that was offering her a deal. And if she didn't want the deal, you can take it or leave it. And I mean, it's like, you know, with my YouTube channel, over 150,000 subscribers. Like, let's say that one of you all, let's say you just had like, let's just say you had about 75,000 subscribers. Let's say you had 75,000 subscribers and you wanted to collaborate with me on a video. And let's just say, for example, that I would give commission. It's like, okay, let's see, or, you know, or you would pay me or whatever. Let's just use this example. Let's say you have 75,000 subscribers and I said, okay, since you got about half of the subscribers I have, and it's still a noticeable number, collaborating with you would be a great opportunity because of the fact that we both have sizable channels. And I mean, you probably have a lot of subscribers who never heard of me and vice versa. So it's like we could both grow as a benefit by working together. So let's say that I collaborate with you on, you know, several videos in 2021. Let's just say several videos in 2021. Now, let's say there's another subscriber of mine or another YouTuber, and it's like, hey, Jeremy, I want to collaborate with you as well. I have 2,000 subscribers. I decide, no, I don't want to, you know, collaborate with you because with your channel being as small as it is, I don't think it will be a mutually beneficial collaboration. I mean, obviously, your channel will get a lot of notoriety from being on my platform, but I wouldn't gain the same amount of notoriety by being on your platform since it's so small. So see, there's not a lot of, there's not an even distribution of the benefits of working together. So obviously I will be more inclined to work with the person who has about 75,000 subscribers than someone who has a couple thousand. So then this person with a couple thousand decides to sue me for, you know, being unbiased. I mean, being biased and unfair. But the situation is, this channel is my platform. So I decide who I want to collaborate with and who I don't want to collaborate with. And if you are offended by that, then there's nothing you can really do because it's not like we did content together. And let's say I did a video with the person who did 2,000 subscribers and I didn't give him credit. It's like, you know, I didn't put the links in my video. I didn't give him a shout out or anything. I just kind of like, you know, took the product. Then in that situation, yeah, they can definitely try to fight me over that in terms of legal terms or whatnot. But, you know, YouTube law and everything, you know, I don't know. But when it comes to Monique, that's the situation. It's like going for a job at Burger King, but then not getting the job. It's like that's essentially what it is. Like Monique went to get an interview at Burger King, and for whatever reason, the prices, she felt like it wasn't fair. It's like, how come you gave George, you know, a bigger offer than me as opposed to what I did? You know, my resume, how come I'm making like, I would make like $10 less than him an hour if I worked here, but he's making more. And it's like, you know, the resume say it all. Like, you know, George was a manager at Arby's and, you know, in KFC before he transferred over. Well, my resume, I was also, you know, doing my thing back in the day. Like, you know, I was also I was a cashier. I moved up from the grill and everything, but it's like, it isn't the same because Dave Chappelle has the power to make people listen when he talks. Monique does not. Monique, I'm not downplaying Monique's success because she definitely, you know, the conversation could be said as to whether or not she can be considered like a legend. But at the same time, it's like, it isn't just what you did 15, 10, 20 years ago. Dave Chappelle, Chris Rock, they have hit comedy specials. They have hit shows. The Chappelle Show, Everybody Hates Chris. But aside from that, they aren't just sitting on their laurels because of these big comedic platforms that they created back in the day. They're still out there touring. They're still out there selling out arenas. They're still out there doing interviews that get a lot of views on social media and whatnot. Monique, it's like she kind of disappeared from the spotlight after winning the Oscar from Precious. And I'm going to be honest here, when I'm still doing research on my Monique versus Tyler Perry video, and I was shocked that it's like, holy crap, this whole beef with Oprah, Tyler, and Lee Dan, this has been going on for like 10 years. I honestly forgot. I forgot Precious came out that long ago. I'm not lying. I forgot Precious came out that long ago. And it's like, yo, that's just awful. That's just awful. The fact that she's been holding on to this bitterness for what, almost like a third of the Janet Hubert and Will Smith beef. So it's just a shame. And the thing about it is, when you look at the situation I use with the YouTuber with 2,000 subscribers, let's say this person is known to have a bad reputation with other YouTubers. You know, like let's say I was Netflix and then that small channel was Monique. Because you look at this beef that's been going on for all these years, and Monique called out these heavyweights in the black community in regards to entertainment. Like, more people will be inclined to not rock with Monique. For like, imagine how many black people at home, you know, love Oprah, love Tyler, and it's like, what Monique gonna call them out and curse them out for? Oh no, I ain't listening to her no more and whatnot. So it's like, when things began happening over the past couple of years, like, you know, Oprah doing that Michael Jackson documentary, and then Gayle King, the R. Kelly thing, and like people like, see, yeah, you know, Monique was right about Oprah and all this stuff. But it's like, look how long it took for people to actually see and say that. But at the same time, it's like Monique, it's like with that bad reputation of the, you know, being hard to work with and calling out these heavyweights in the industry, it's like, why would you want to attach yourself to somebody like that? Because that might damage your rep. So all that aside, you know, being problematic, I think the $500,000 was, you know, Netflix's decision, or at least the offer they put on the table, because obviously they don't think Monique would give the same amount of streams as a Dave Chappelle, a Amy Schumer, Chris Rock, because of the fact that when you look at Netflix, you think more so of the up and coming younger generation as opposed to the older ones. I'm not saying older people don't have Netflix. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm just saying that when you look at the up and coming generation, they don't know Monique as well as Dave Chappelle or Chris Rock. Like, Everybody Hates Chris. It's like, I don't know what channel you can find it on, but I just remember my college years, like whenever I was at home for the weekend or whatever, it would not be uncommon to see Everybody Hates Chris whenever I was flipping through the channel. Just like seeing Georgia Lopez on Nick at Night and whatnot. But the Parkers, it's like you rarely see that, you know, running maybe on a weekend or something. It might be on BET, you know, back in the day, but that's it. It's like the Chappelle Show. Those clips still get millions of views on the Comedy Central YouTube channel. I don't see clips of the Parkers going viral. I don't see clips of the Parkers being used for, like, you know, gifts and whatnot online. We live in a different society from the early 2000s. So Monique doesn't have that same level of relevancy she did during the days of the Parkers, or when she did her late night talk show, or when she was doing like Fat Girls and the Queens of Comedy tour. Again, I'm not saying she's not talented. All I'm saying is, if I was working with someone who is a celebrity, but they don't have the same pull, because when you look at the ticket numbers and whatnot, she wasn't selling out arenas. She was, you know, doing clubs and whatnot. So with that being said, why would I offer someone in that lane even half the money I was offering to someone selling out huge arenas, Madison Square Gardens, and places like that? And also, you look at the fact that Dave Chappelle was simply asking people to boycott me, boycott the Chappelle Show. Excuse me, throat shot. I need to get some water after this. Don't boycott Netflix. Don't boycott HBO Max. Don't boycott Comedy Central. Don't boycott Viacom. Just this one specific show. That's all he was asking people to do. So on the Monique side of things, obviously she wanted people to boycott Netflix altogether, because of the fact that she wasn't being paid what she felt she was, she deserved. And the major difference is, it goes back to what I said. Dave asked people to boycott the McChicken, while Monique was asking people to boycott McDonald's. And the biggest argument I have for people who are Monique, I guess you could say Monique supporters, is you talk about the injustice of black people, specifically black women in the industry, and the fact that she's speaking up. And I'm like, I have nothing against her speaking up, but the problem is the way I'm not saying everything Monique said wasn't true. The problem is It's the way she came across when she said it. Because let me put it this way. If people follow what Monique was saying, then that means you're hurting the Netflix bank or wallet, if you will, the pockets of Netflix. And at the same time, look at how many black projects are on Netflix, from black movies to black documentaries to black shows. How many black producers, directors, writers, actors, comedians, musicians benefit from the platform. So you're telling me that this one black woman, because she wasn't paid what she felt she deserved, she was asking everyone to stop using Netflix altogether. And as a result, that would hurt a lot of black creators, which, excuse me, go back to what Monique said. Netflix had a lot of, biased and was giving out inequality in regards to deals to black people and women. When you look at how much money they were giving to Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock, two black comedians, and then Amy Schumer, who is a woman. Monique's foundation for the argument was not valid. Dave Chappelle recognized that, hey, I signed the contract. It's legal, but it's not right. So please boycott the Chappelle show. The major difference here is the fact that Dave realizes his fault in the situation. And he talks about how the business, the industry, it isn't right, it isn't fair, but what I did means that it's legal. He also points out that, hey, I wanted to speak with Netflix and these people higher up because more often than not, the people who are working in the top CEO or, the paperwork department of these given companies most likely were not the same people in power from back in the day when I signed these documents. So hopefully we can sit down, renegotiate, make things work. But until then, please boycott. And it worked. Monique, on the other hand, refuses to admit any wrongdoings in this. Like, if that person with 2,000 subscribers, who I mentioned in an example earlier, decided to call me out for being unfair, for not working with them because, they can work with this person with 75,000 subscribers, but they can't work with me for having 2,000 or whatever the situation is. I wouldn't want to work with them at all after that. Even if they grew their channel to like 500,000 subscribers while I still only had like 100 or 200,000, I still wouldn't want to work with them, because you literally tarnish any chance of us collaborating because you badmouth me in the public eye. So with this whole, and I call it the Netflix boycott tour that Monique has been doing for like the last year and a half, 2 years. If I were Netflix, I certainly want to work with her. Like, I could be wrong about this because I was doing some research trying to figure out things, but people are wondering, if Monique is getting paid since they're streaming the Parkers. Honestly, I do not know. I wasn't able to find any solid concrete evidence that Monique would be getting residuals from the show if she was a writer, producer, or director of the series, because of the fact that, it is good to see a lot of black content on Netflix nowadays, because a lot of people are being introduced to shows like Half and Half, One-on-One, Girlfriends, and whatnot. But the thing is, even though it's great to see those shows on the platform, it's not always a guarantee that the people involved with the show are getting a slice of the streaming service pie. Like these streaming services, when they got the paperwork to stream these shows, that doesn't necessarily mean that, let's say, Kyla Pratt is making money from it. Look, I could be wrong. I'm just using that as an example. I don't know. All I'm saying is, when it comes down to the writers and everything, if Monique and, the other actors aren't, listed as, people behind the scenes, because I'm looking at a list of the production team now, from the executive producers to the producers and the writers. I don't see, Monique or anybody listed here. So, I mean, unless they get residuals in the form of that check from reruns or whatever, I don't think they're getting paid for it. Again, I could be wrong. I wasn't able to find solid information. So if you have found anything, feel free to let me know in the comments. But I just know from interviews from like Vlad TV and Comedy Hype, when they talk about things like residuals, unless you're like a big show like a Friends or something like that, then those residuals will get smaller and smaller as the years go on. I mean, look at the Cosby Show, for example. Once the Cosby Show was taken down after this situation with Bill, Jeffrey Owens was at Trader Joe's, so that just shows you right there that as time goes on, unless those shows are in major rerun, major syndication, those checks won't look as big as they did from back in the day when they were first on the air. So I just think that there's a major difference there, because when you look at someone who recognizes their faults in the situation versus someone who refuses, because when you look at the Monique situation with Netflix, it's not just a Netflix situation. You got to look at all the factors from the Precious days and how she's calling out people. It's still calling out people like Tyler Perry. And it's like, this dude's a billionaire working, giving opportunities to other people. He ain't think about Monique. Monique is just bringing her own self down by holding on to this bitterness because of the fact that, she wants these people to apologize. And I feel like every time Monique does this kind of stuff, it's just proving the narrative that she is difficult to work with. That's my biggest thing here. So I just feel like there is no reason to really compare the situations between Monique and Dave Chappelle. So let me know. This was a lengthy video. I just wanted to get up here and talk with my thoughts here about why people will be backing Dave Chappelle rather than Monique. And there are some people who aren't backing Dave Chappelle, and I get it, because it's like, well, why are you telling me to boycott the Chappelle show? I love the Chappelle show. Yeah, I got the DVD sets and everything, but I'm the one paying for my Netflix subscription. I'm the one paying for my HBO Max subscription. I'm not boycotting. You're the one who signed the contracts back in the day. You're still a millionaire. And hell, even though you walked away from the show back in the day, when you came back to Netflix and did those specials, you made more money from that than you would have done, you made more money from that than you would have done if you would have stuck with the Chappelle show. So I don't feel sorry for you, Dave. Hey, I know it sucks in the industry, but I'm watching the Chappelle show. That's totally fair to think that way. But the thing about it is with Monique, it's like she was literally asking people to give up a part of their livelihood. And I say livelihood. Look, Netflix is not a necessity, but in the day and age we live in now, where people want stuff now, Monique is not powerful enough to stop people from watching Stranger Things, Orange is the New Black, and all these other hit shows on Netflix. And think back to 2018, because there was a lot of stuff out there, and there's still a lot of stuff out there now. She is not a powerhouse in the industry. I don't even think, look, Dave Chappelle is powerful, but I don't think even he is powerful enough to tell people to get rid of Netflix. Because, like, Negro, please, like, shoot, the $8 a month I pay, man, get out of here with that. And it's not like, Dave Chappelle's like, yeah, the Chappelle show thing sucks, but it's not like it's breaking your bank account. You're still going to be a millionaire at the end of the day. And again, it's a fair way to think that way. I just know for me, I just like Dave's approach better than Monique's, because it felt like Dave was speaking to the people, because he broke it down to the fact of, hey, here's what happened to me when I was younger. He really humanized the situation, as opposed to Monique, who, again, it just felt incredibly selfish, because you talked about how you weren't offered millions of dollars. You were offered $500,000. So right off the rip, she pushed out the $500,000 narrative. And think of the average everyday working class person. $500,000 is something they would most likely not even see with a decade's worth of work. Like, technically, if you look at like the money they'd make on an annual salary, but you remove taxes and, bills and everything, they'll never see that $500,000. So we don't feel bad for Monique. $500,000 would change the lives of probably 90% of the people she's asking to boycott Netflix. Pay off student loans, get that house, get a new car, put money away for savings, hell, start a college fund for children or their children, whatnot. We don't feel bad for you. On the Dave Chappelle side, he broke down, I was young in the industry, I was trying to get a deal, here's the situation. And not to mention people who want to say, well, Monique is standing up for, the rights of black women and whatnot. Really? Before the Netflix situation, when has Monique publicly or, social media wise went out and spoke on the same thing she's talking about now? Not to mention, when you compare that to Dave Chappelle, he's been doing that for a long time, since he walked away from the Chappelle show. When he did that interview with Oprah and broke down how these people were laughing at me, not laughing with me. They were literally trying to put another black man in the dress, and I wasn't about that. So Dave Chappelle was calling out the industry far before, far earlier than Monique did when it came to the whole, Tyler Perry, Lee Daniels, and Oprah thing. So don't come at me with that. So please, if you leave a comment below and say you disagree, by all means, you are welcome to it. But please put some thought into it instead of just, I want to say this much, and I'm not going to say names. There have been several people I've talked with off the record, in the DMs or, social media chat or whatnot. And we would talk about the situation. And I broke it down to them the way I did for you. Like in the comment of that comedy hype video, I just said, well, it's like, and I know I'm saying it for like the third or fourth time, but I'm glad that little comment got a lot of attention. Dave was asking us to boycott the McChicken. Monique was asking us to boycott McDonald's. And then I went into some of the details I mentioned in this video, and they're like, you know what? I didn't think of it the way you just broke it down. Like, I want to be honest here. A lot of the people I spoke with who were pretty much coming at me from the get-go were black women. And I wish I could, out of respect to them, I'm not going to say their names or screenshot the comments and whatnot, because these individuals know who they are and we're still talking about the situations. They said, you know what, you're right. I came from it at the angle of, I'm a black woman too. So it's like when Monique was saying what she was saying, I was thinking from an emotional standpoint instead of the logical standpoint. See what I mean? Because Monique knew what she was doing when she was using things like, gender bias and racial inequality. She knew what she was doing to get the attention of listeners, especially black women. But when you think of it from the logical standpoint, her argument made no sense because she was literally contradicting herself in her original statements. Racial gender bias. Well, Amy Schumer got millions of dollars like Dave and Chris Rock. Racial inequality. But Dave and Chris Rock got more than Amy Schumer and they're black. So it's like that's the world we live in. People are more inclined to act out on their emotion instead of looking at the full story, whether it be, and I'm going to use these examples with a grain of salt, so please don't jump on me. When it comes to police brutality or racial situations, protest and whatnot, if nothing else from 2020, and I've been living by this, I've been trying to live by this for the past 2 or 3 years, especially since, I've been working full time in social media, meaning that I absorb a lot of social media. I try not to let a headline spark, gas me up. We live in a day and age where people will click on not even click. People will read a headline and go off that. They will not read a story for context. Like a headline could just be complete 100% bullshit and clickbait, which is something that I try not to do on this channel because I've been called out a couple of times, rightfully so, for titling a couple of videos that are obviously clickbait. And I changed the titles because I realized, I'm doing what everybody else is doing. But at the end of the day, I got bills. But that's something I try not to do. Whenever I title a video or make a post, I make sure I got facts behind it. And if I don't have facts, I will literally say to be like, look, this is speculation. I did some research, but I wasn't able to find, like in this video, I mentioned things like, I don't know if so-and-so is getting paid for this show being on Netflix or, this or that. I will let you know if I'm ignorant to something. Hence why I say, hey, use the comment section to educate me if I'm wrong. More often than not, when we see these viral clips of different things that happen in the world, the 15 seconds of somebody being killed, the 15 seconds of somebody being beaten and whatnot, that's only one perspective of the story. How often have viral stories that have sent people into protests and riots in 2020, how many of these stories have had their narratives flipped upside down because of a new piece of information that came out 1 to 3 months later? That's all I'm going to say on the matter. I'm just going to say that please be informed before you react. Don't just go off a headline, read the article. Don't just go off a title, watch the full video. Don't look at what's going viral and just say that's your opinion on it. Like, don't just look at a 15-second clip or a one tweet. Do some research, because more often than not, when you do your own digging, you're going to find out a lot more that wasn't included in the original story. That's all I want to say on that. So with that being said, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you think that it's fair that people seem to be rallying behind Dave Chappelle, but not Monique? Do you think the situations that both of these black comedians have with these giant streaming services are the same? Do you feel like they're different? Let's have a solid discussion in the comment section below, please. And yes, I'm still planning to do my Monique versus Tyler Perry video. Look, let me just put it this way. If I ain't got it up by Christmas, you can expect it in 2021. Look, I'm busy as heck. Like yesterday, Friday, I had about 45 packages to get ready for eBay. And thank God they're all in the boxes. I'm waiting on the mail truck to come this afternoon. I'll load them up and that'll be it. I still have about 12 items that have not been paid for yet. Hopefully they'll be paid for soon so I can mail those off next week. And I'm going to wrap up videos. You know, I don't know if I'm going home either Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. It's going to be one of those two. And I'll be back to my apartment no later than the 29th. Hopefully the 28th. Because, you know, Christmas being on a Friday. I mean, if my folks and everything got to go back to work, not to sound like I'm trying to go home for a couple days and rush back, but I'm trying to save money because, like I said, I'm looking at houses next year. And I'm trying to save up for that. So as always, if you would like to donate for the to the channel, feel free to do so on PayPal, Cash App, or join Patreon for as little as $1 a month. Or if you don't want to donate financially, feel free to just like and subscribe to the channel and just watch my content. Kind of like Dave was asking people not to watch Chappelle show. Please watch my videos so it can increase the ad revenue so I can put away for this, you know, hopefully this house for next year. And are there any other like pop culture or big news stories you want me to give my 2 cents on? I'll talk about it.